Hello, everyone. Good evening. We have to be a bit quicker. It won't be this conversation won't take too long because the building is going to close soon. But we can have some time, some questions, and then open to the public. I just wanted to thank Taka for the magnificent performance we just experienced. And in fact, when I contacted Taka to discuss this conversation, you said that you wanted to focus on performance, focus this conversation on performance. I'm sure you've read the introduction in the booklet of the festival, and there you might have found the title of this conversation. We agreed on using performance only live in the present. I just wanted to clarify that this is a quote from Peggy Phelan. Is an American scholar. And the whole paragraph is very interesting. It says, performance's only life is in the present. Performance cannot be saved, recorded, documented, or otherwise participate in the circulation of representations of representations. Once it does so, it becomes something other than performance. Taka, I believe it was between 1963 and 1970 that you started as a filmmaker and a video artist to challenge conventional experiences of cinema by putting an emphasis on the performative aspect of film projection through activities that you called film performance. You've been a pioneer, I think we could say that you've been a pioneer in seeking alternative approaches to film projection, and I believe performance may have influence or been crucial to the development of your work, to the overall body of your work, influencing as well the performative turn in Japanese post-war art and how it infiltrated cinema. How do you and why do you start working with performance?
Okay, I understand what she asking me, and well, to talk about performance with film or whatever other media may be involved. So what she quoted, there are certain this kind of excuse me. Oh, this may be part of performance.
You use all your voice during the performance, maybe.
That's right.
You left it on the wall.
That's right. So it goes back to some early day of my film exhibition, and that was in Tokyo. There was a little gallery rather close to the center of Tokyo, and a friend of mine opened it, and we had the chance to have an exhibition, and a film exhibition. The gallery itself is called the Naika. Naika means his father was a doctor who specialized internal affairs. I mean, when you get diarrhea, you come there to be checked. So, and then after his father died, and all right. Okay. He himself not artist, but the son of the doctor. But he wondered what to do with the space, after. He's in the doctor course, but he's not yet doctor himself yet, So I suggest maybe good to have a gallery there, and you can use the entire space, And so he opened the gallery, and then let's start a film screening there. And I have started to make film with my 8mm camera, and so it was a time of what we call Neo-Dada is happening, and in Tokyo, maybe after what's going on in America, and yet there is other elements comes together, and so internal gallery started also internal cinematheque there, and let's have a film, and which I made like the one you saw perhaps yesterday with this junk, what we call kuzu in Japanese. That's the first film I made, shooting the lots of junks on the Tokyo Bay, on the shore, and involving myself with the camera, not just showing what's the junk on the beach, but also myself acting as the junk, you see. And so that was my first step, and about 50 years ago, or early 63, I think. And then it's a small, tiny gallery, and I thought, not just exhibiting is not so much entertaining, and so maybe something else we could do too. So maybe we could have something right too there, and what to do was something like using a projector as a kind of instrument, rather than just a machine to project film. And so first thing I try to do is this 8mm projector has a kind of devices like slow speed or stop freeze frame, or something change the focus, or something like other little devices. In those days, these projector has such kind of devices equipped, and for the amateur to make a fun of it, So we tried that kind of devices, and using autofocus or let's see, subframe, and also freeze frame, and also even not only projecting on screen, but also projecting on the ceiling, or wall, or door, or floor, or someone else the closed even, and so then it's a 8mm projector. It's not that heavy, so we can carry around with a projector, so moving around, and so using such devices could start with some kind of performance with the projector.
So you were experimenting with film projection.
That's right. That's right.
Were you aware at that time of the expanded cinema?
No. There is nothing like that word. It exists. Even performance is not a word for art word. So we don't know what to call them. So I call it film concert. So it's like a concert. So it's instead of music, it's a kind of visual music in a way, using a projector as an instrument, you see, and they're all using these devices. And so we had some kind of fun of it, you know. And so it was recorded, and what we did, mostly just a photograph. And then afterward, we had a kind of panel discussion there too. And we don't know what to call it, you know. So it just born there. So that was my first step.
This happened before you moved to New York, or?
That's right. Yeah, it was before moving to New York.
In 1966, right?
That's the year. Yeah. So it's about 3 years before that.
And when you moved to New York, did you find similarities around the experimental filmmakers' culture and artists, and the expansion of the arts that was happening at the time? Did you find connections or affinities in what you found in New York with your work?
Not exactly, and I was shy too, and I wasn't sure what to do. But when I proposed, I like to have exhibition or screening, and at Cinematheque, where Jonas Maker is running, and he was only one day and taking the ticket, and and so he, just bring your film, and we would show it, So next day I bring some 8mm films there, and he projected it, and so that was first screening in New York, and it was what they call Filmmaker Cinematheque. It's very near to the Times Square, and I think that was 41st Street, and so that was first exposure in America, and so it was rather surprised. It was always hard to find a space for projection to show people in Tokyo. So I had a gallery friend, so I could show there, and that was lucky. But it's small, like 10 to 20 people can sit, that's all. And in those early days of the 60s, it is. I had discussion lately with this young researcher from London, and we had a lot of discussion, and it is in internet, MoMA Post it's called. He has a rather lengthy essay on what we talked about. You can find it.
Do you think there is a connection between the media of film or video and performance and how you use it? Do you find certain aspects in common between these two modes of expression, film and performance?
I think so, and because I found, when I start showing, and the most interesting part is when we show the film rather than when we are making, in fact. And that's where I see the people, their reaction, and how they see the film. That's the important part of the, I found the most important part rather than what film theory, mostly they discuss about the production, or up to the editing, but not about the exhibition or screening. They regard screening just the mechanical aspect of the last part of the film. But I don't agree that. And that's where you show film, that's where you do the performance. So exhibition or projection is not just a mechanical thing to show people. You have to talk in a way through camera or through film or through projection and with audience, or answer the question as well. And that is my point of view. And because this is because of my film, our film even. It's a very small, always it's small audience, and not this big theater, not often. And so we have rather casually could do that, And if you're dealing with a big the distribution company, you cannot go around all the city, at the same when they show the commercial cinema. It's impossible. But our film is tiny, so you have here once, or you have there once in the city, and once in a month, once in a week, and you could go and show and talk with them. So why not to do the performance there with the film? And that's you have a kind of direct response and communication,
Yeah, it has it's an event. An
That's right. It's a kind of event.
Exploit that aspect and also the social,
right.
The social element that it
That's
has.
Right.
I believe you called in those years, maybe 1917 or 1970 or around those years. You called your film presentations. You used to call them film actions. Is this right?
Yeah. Sometimes I call that too. Yes. Right.
And what about the temporal aspect? Do you think there's something in common as well in film and performance in terms of duration?
I think so. Yeah, there's a common, although as you quoted at the beginning, and I don't see not only the present, but also you can bring what recorded among them. So you can have both the past as well as the present at the same time. So it's always it's a presence anyway. Even you using the recorded material, what it shows as a present. So I don't care if that was recorded or not. That's the distinction to separate. But you can use any other material at the same time. That's my idea, my way to do that.
I was thinking about the films we saw yesterday in the cinema, and the films that focus on time and the gestalt of time. They are very, I would say, anti-representational. They don't have any image. It's just the experience of the screen and the space that the screen creates around it with its lights. Do you think this sort of experience has somehow led your practice to a sort of awareness of the space as a performative field of work, or do you think there is some relation between this sort of rejection to represent through images and somehow bringing into the space the action?
In a way, yes. And although it's normal, projection itself, it's normal projection using a projector, and but the contents is rather very minimal. Using like black and white, and sometimes I use also numbers and numerals, and some few words as well too. But very simple, message if I have. So using these material, and you have to not only think about the visual, but also you need some kind of imagination, and between black and white, and between timing, and those I have found what the time is very important elements, the factor in film, yet not much been done, experimented. It was always visual. That's experiments avant cinema is concerned, you know. But the time is also, you know, it's an important factor in the film as well. So how can I present time? You know, it's time is invisible. So it's not easy, but yet there are some way to do that. So these three pieces I use in series in like timed 1 to 3 and or 24 frames per second and 1 frame duration is all dealing with the time in film and to experience in real time. So to have a real time, real sense. If you see too much visual, you are absorbed into the visual. If there is not much thing, or almost nothing, and then you hear what's going on here, you get a sense of time. Because when you normally, if you feel time, it's about the film, they say that. You know, if you got excited, forget about time, that's a good film. But I wanted to reverse that and to get a sense of it, the time. You know, that is supposed to be bad, but bad is good to experience time as your time as yourself. And
yes, and you need there's some emptiness.
That's right.
There's an absence
that's right.
of images, and that's how time can be perceived. Because when there is movement, then when there is action and montage, then we are distracted,
right?
And we cannot have like a proper sense of time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So to make them, you know, blur, when that makes you feel time. That's the way it works.
I think you achieved this.
All right?
Yes. And could you talk about the relationship between these two elements you use in these films? You know, you use white and black, and of course there is the temporal element. But how do you think this relates to Japanese culture?
Yes, we have had such kind of tradition, this polarity between black and white, and this distinction between, and especially kind of Zen painting has these elements in it, and using very minimal color if they use, mostly only black for drawing and for writing the characters, and they're very simple symbols. And also that is somehow a kind of tradition, and yet also there is always this what we call ma is a space in between. And that's both in time and also in space. And space in between, time in interval comes together in a way, and which is what we call ma, M-A. And some, like in also in Kabuki theater, when you see Kabuki, and there's a certain section or certain intervals suddenly stop and no actions, and suddenly you hear the very time stop in a way, and that is a realization of ma, and in which we know what's going on, and at the same time you see yourself. I mean, that's also in that's we call ma, the spacing, and not only at Kabuki or no theater we have such moment too, but also in Sumie traditional mountain, what we call water drawings. And there is a lot non-drawn, I mean, white spaces. And the mountain just symbolize mountain, or river just symbolize the river. But they are not well drawn. I mean, there's no distinction between river and the mountain. There's a white space. Where is the edge of the river? Where is the edge of the mountain? We don't know. So that's the space you can fill in, you know, whatever you think about. That's the traditional way to see those kind of drawing or paintings.
Mm-hmm. You talked to me once about, I think it was regarding your film Ma Intervals, not Ma in the Garden, but the other one, I believe the title is Ma Intervals, which is like a black screen with a white line, and then the white screen with a black line. And you talked to me about this idea of the yin and yang, and the way in Occidental culture thinks about oppositions, like black and white as opposed, but in Japanese culture this is not an opposition, it's like two sides of the same thing.
Right.
And you were trying to work on these ideas, no?
That's right, yeah, it's a polarity, you know, black and white, or yes or no, positive, negative, and yet this polarity exists in parallel, and it's not it's exactly opposition. You know, it's just two aspect of the being. You see, and one is here, one is there, and you might say this is yes, this might be no, or this is good, that is bad. But it's just two polarity, and maybe can be exchangeable, can be switchable. That's the way all the monks thought, you know, thinks about that way. So whether you are in bad position or a good position doesn't matter, in fact, and you can find your way, whichever you want. That's their thinking. That's right.
And do you think this conceptual fusion between space and time that you explore in your work, do you think is deep in Japanese culture and art, or
Excuse me.
do you think this approach that you have in your work as space and time as something as a unity? Do you think this is something deep in Japanese culture, or?
In a way, yes, but also we forgetting about what Japanese culture is about, you know, and our daily environment is very much westernized in a way, but also we are for their own their usefulness. It's easier to, you know, whatever available. So about not thinking deeply about what the matter is. So we sometimes confuse ourselves too. Right.
Regarding white calligraphy and a lot of some of your other works, perhaps more. Not only video works, I was going to say video works or some installations in which you use video, but there seem to be like a an important part of your work in which you explore the relation between reading and seeing. Some of your films, for instance, Love and Ma, they could be even described as film poems. Why this connection between reading and seeing is so important to you?
I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out. And,
I am trying to approach the connection that you make in a lot of your work, I believe. For instance, in white calligraphy as well, in the video performance, As I See You, See Me, and other pieces that you've explored with video, but also some films could be described as film poems. So there is some connection here with language and sometimes with reading. Why this connection between reading and seeing is important to you?
Well, I try to see, yet there is something always not available to see, and so that's also happened in cinema or video, or whatever. We use those materials, and so there is always contradiction involved in this situation, and I enjoy, though, using this kind of contradiction, and even the piece I did here, as I see you see me, and I put myself, I and you, and yet I video in the monitor, I see you, and you video, I see me, you see, and so this I and you are coming back and forth, and it's a feedback, you see, and that's as I see you see me is a verbal equivalent of what feedback does, and so you can't avoid this this duality, and yet I try to figure out what's going on, like everybody else. And this duality is kind of like a tunnel vision, you see, and I try to catch myself in the tunnel of me, and I is always going to into the feedback, into the tunnel, into the center, but then. And then suddenly you coming in there, so I confuse myself like everybody else. So that's why I handle this piece, you see. And I'm not sure if I answer you, but that's my motivation.
Maybe we could
sure.
Open to the public if they want to ask. No? No hay tiempo. ¿Cómo? Están cerrando el edificio. ¿En serio? ¿Pero dónde se ha ido el tiempo?
You have a question?
Yes? No questions.
Pardon?
Perdón, tenemos que irnos. Lo siento muchísimo, me están diciendo que cortemos. De todas maneras, ahora todos vamos juntos al mismo sitio y podemos seguir hablando, ¿no? Lo siento muchísimo. We have to go.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.